Joining us now, Oklahoma Republican Senator James Lankford. He's a member of the Homeland Security Committee. Senator, appreciate you coming in.
Glad to be able to stop by.
So, first of all, big picture, as a member of the Homeland Security Committee, what are your thoughts about these failures?
Yeah, there are lessons learned from 2016 that Chad Wolf is already engaging on. Some of the key lessons: there wasn't enough engagement with the state, with Homeland Security. Chad Wolf has fixed that. The whole Homeland Security team has fixed that. Not enough people with security clearance, that there is a hacking problem. They get back and forth with them. They can rapidly do that. So we actually put very specific things in a piece of legislation. We've worked with Homeland Security to be able to implement that even before we get the legislation passed, and they're actively doing that. We saw the fruit of that in 2018.
Yeah.
We'll see it again in 2020.
So as a Republican senator, you wake up this morning thinking you're going to find out who might be the front runner, who's got the momentum on the other side, and instead a party on the other side that talked about Russia, interfering in elections and all the rest. It turns out it's the Democratic Party themselves having trouble this morning.
Yeah, they just didn't get all their stuff together, as Chad Wolf mentioned. Apparently, it's a stress issue. It's just they didn't have the right app, the right technology to be able to do it, and that becomes a problem. And it's the same thing, actually, we saw, as President Trump has already mentioned before, on Obamacare when it first launched. This whole emphasis of, give it all to the government, and the government can do everything, and we can do that. And the Democrats say, give us student loans, give us health care, give us all these things, and we can do it. Okay, doing the election in Iowa is the first thing they've got to be able to prove that they can actually do before I turn over the rest of my life to them. I just don't think it's a smart thing to be able to do. There is something very powerful about individuals still taking control and being able to have some consistencies in the process.
We had Democratic Senator Bob Casey, your colleague, on earlier. He admitted he's disappointed. He's endorsed former Vice President Joe Biden. He said he can't believe they haven't gotten all of this together. But then he went on to attack your party over this Senate impeachment trial that is close to wrapping up. Let's hear him, give him a fair shot, and you can respond.
Okay.
People have seen this impeachment trial without any new witnesses that should have been called who would have been relevant, like Mr. Bolton. No new documents. I think that's unfortunately going to be the lasting impact of this impeachment process. Was a trial that was rigged from day one. I'm not necessarily open to censure, but I want Joe to make his case. I'll look at his proposal. But we have an impeachment process that has to conclude by virtue of what the Constitution demands.
He referred to Joe Biden, who he's endorsed, that he's going to make his case out there. He thinks, though, that you and other Republicans rigged this process.
Yeah, that was the opening line for them. When they started the very first day, they asked for 11 different amendments, sets of documents, sets of people, saying these are all the things we didn't do in the House, we'd like the Senate to do, and it made the political argument very, very clear for them. They wanted to go as fast as they could through the House to get it done, get it off their plate, and then drag it out as long as they possibly could in the Senate, not to be able to gain more information. If they needed that information, they had every ability to be able to get it when they were in the House. They said, well, the president said no, he wouldn't turn it over immediately. Well, President Clinton didn't either. President Nixon didn't either. President Obama didn't either. I was in the House when we were dealing with Fast and Furious. For 3 years, he pushed back and said he's not going to turn over documents. You go through the court process, you make it right. They said, we don't want to do that because their goal wasn't gathering information. They knew from the beginning that this was a partisan issue. Their goal was to drag it out as long as they could to try to hurt the president.
Drag it out, and yet now we finally maybe see the finish line, which could be an acquittal vote as early as tomorrow. You're going to speak on the floor later. What are your thoughts about your Democratic colleague, Joe Manchin, saying, hang on a second, maybe there should be a censure of the president, say the call was inappropriate, but he shouldn't be removed. Are you open-minded about a censure vote or no?
Actually, when I look at the facts of what happened actually around the call, and you get all the details on it, the way both the money was sent to Ukraine and the timing of it, what everyone seems to be leaving out is the timing for 2018 was the same, 2017 was the same, 2016 was the same. The Democrats in the House are focused on 2019, saying this is some anomaly. That timing was consistent with other years. I don't see a big scheme in this. If Joe Manchin ends up voting with the Republicans on this impeachment, saying this is not an impeachable offense, that will be the first time in the history of the country a Democrat has not voted straight party on an impeachment vote for the president.
You see some of the swing votes there, and Democrats from Manchin to Sinema to Jones could potentially vote to acquit. So what you're saying is it would essentially be a bipartisan acquittal, which you and the president and others would be able to say, hey, we moved on here.
Which is what it was in the House. It was bipartisan opposition in the House to impeachment in the House. I would assume this will be bipartisan opposition in the Senate as well to say, hey, this is not an impeachable offense. When you look at all the facts, this is a non-story.
So last question. Do you think the president will be able to resist sort of spiking the football tonight because of what you're saying about the potential for a bipartisan acquittal? And more broadly and importantly on the substance, what do you want to hear from the president about the agenda moving forward?
There's a lot of good news. I think the president will stay focused on the good news in the country. all the positive things that are happening with the economy, with jobs, with the trade issues. We've had NAFTA issues for a long time that have just been resolved. China doing a phase one trade deal there, Japan. All these things are very helpful to the country as a whole. Every worker, everybody, every state benefits from all these things. So I think the president will focus on that. I really doubt he'll get into impeachment at all, but I would fully expect on Wednesday, when the impeachment vote is done and he's cleared, he'll spike the football on Wednesday. But I wouldn't guess it'd be tonight.
So it'll be a touchdown when he scores on acquittal, perhaps. Spike the football, you think, at a political rally, but not tonight.
That's what I was saying, because then he's back right up again Thursday morning for the National Prayer Breakfast, Thursday morning. And again, that's not the spot to be able to talk about it either, but I bet he'll come out and make a pretty clear statement on Wednesday night.
Senator, we appreciate you coming in with your thoughts.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be watching tonight. Sandra?